What's going on, my brothers and sisters? It's your brother James Noid-Binns coming to you guys with another TikTok video here on today. Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you guys are watching this video from. Today we are still on the same subject. These things will happen in the 7 great years of tribulations. This is part 4 of this video. Starting off with 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verses 3, King James Version, where it says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." Then for 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 1 through 12, "Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him." Verse 2, "That you be not soon shaken in mind or troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand." Verse 3, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, that pertains to the Antichrist, who opposes and exalts himself against the Antichrist above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, the Antichrist, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself again the Antichrist, that he, again, the Antichrist, is God." Verse 5, "Don't you remember that when I was yet with you, I told you these things?" Verse 6, "And now you know what withholds, that he might be revealed in his time." His is again the Antichrist time. Verse 7, "For the mystery of iniquity does already work. Only he who now lets will let until he be taken out of the way." Where it was saying he in those verses, it was speaking of the church. I'll speak on that in a moment. Verse 8, "And then shall that wicked," again the Antichrist, "be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." Verse 9, "Even him, the Antichrist, whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders." Verse 10, "And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them who perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved." Verse 11, "And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, they should believe believe a lie." Verse 12, "That they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness." Starting off at verse 3 of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, where it states, "For when they shall say peace and safety," refers to Israel, but will as well characterize the world. It pertains to the Antichrist signing the 7-year pact with Israel and other nations, as we read in Daniel chapter 9 verse 27. Then where it states in that verse, "Then sudden destruction come upon them," meaning at the midpoint of the 7-year period, the Antichrist will break his pact, actually invading Israel. Revelation chapter 12 verse 1 through 6 is what we will read in the next video. And then where it also goes forth in the verse, "As travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape," means the great tribulation is definitely coming. As we read in Matthew chapter 24 verse 21, 7 great years of tribulations is coming, but the rapture must happen then that time. Then for 2 Thessalonians of verse 1 chapter 2, where it states, "Now we beseech you, brethren, by our Lord Jesus Christ," refers to both the rapture and the second coming. And where it states, "And by our gathering together unto him," means this phrase strictly to the rapture. Then for verse 2 of chapter 2 of 2 Thessalonians, "That you be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled," means false doctrine does this. "Neither by spirit," means messages in tongues and interpretation, which purport to be of the Lord. Then where it states, "But really were not, nor by word." Then where it states in the Bible verse pertaining to those who claim to have a word from the Lord, "Nor by letter as from us." Someone had written a letter claiming certain prophetic things, and evidently had signed Paul's name to it, which means it was forgery, as that the day of Christ is at hand. The day of the Lord, because this is how the best manuscripts read. The day of the Lord refers to all events after the rapture. Some were claiming, even in Paul's day, that the second coming was about to take place, which of course was wrong. Sad thing is that's what's going on in some churches nowadays. The second coming, when it's really the rapture. Then for verse 3, where it states, "Let no man deceive you by any means." In other words, don't listen to that which is scripturally incorrect. For that day shall not come except there come a falling away first. This speaks of the rapture, which in essence says the second coming cannot take place until certain things happen and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. This speaks of the Antichrist who must come upon the world, seen before the second coming. Then for verse 4, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God pertains to his declaration of himself as deity, or that is worship. The Antichrist will put down all religions, at least in the area which he controls, making himself alone the object of worship, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, refers to the Jewish temple which will be rebuilt in Jerusalem. The Antichrist will take over the temple, making it his religious headquarters, showing himself that he is God, this proclaiming his announcement of deity as it regards himself. Then for verse 5, where it states, "Don't you remember that when I was yet with you, I told you these things," means so there was no excuse for the Thessalonians to be drawn away by false doctrine. Then in verse 6, "And now you know what withholds," speaks of the church, that he must be revealed in his time. This speaks of the Antichrist who will be revealed or made known after the rapture of the church. Then for verse 7, "For the mystery of iniquity does already work, concerns false teaching by false teachers. Only he," speaks of the church, "who now hinders evil, will continue to hinder until he, the church, be taken out of the way." The pronoun he confuses some people. In verses 4 and 6, the pronoun he refers to the Antichrist, while in verse 7, he refers to the church. So you see 2 times in verse 7 it was saying he. That was pertaining to the church. Verse 8, "And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. And then, after the rapture of the church, shall that wicked, the Antichrist, be revealed, proclaiming conclusively that the rapture takes place before the great tribulation, when the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth," should have been translated, "the breath of his mouth," in Isaiah chapter 11 verse 4, as we will read in the next video, "and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." Both phrases refer to the second coming. Also want to share the last meaning. The rest I will share in the next video. For verse 9, where it states, "Even him, the Antichrist, whose coming is after the working of Satan," means that Satan is the sponsor of the Antichrist with all power and signs and lying wonders, proclaiming the fact that the Antichrist rise to power, at least in the beginning, will be very religious. Do you guys hear everything's word? Don't take my word for it. Don't take the interpretations. But really, do you guys take everything that is in this word today? Do you guys understand of why I'm preaching on this topic? This is very important to study, to understand, to know. People are still claiming the Lord is going to come tomorrow. The Lord is going to come April 8th. The Lord is going to come March. How do you know? Did he tell you? That's what people were doing in Paul's time. Apostle Paul. It's just very sad that people are drawn away into deception. Dealing with a reprobated mind, a strong delusion. It's just very sad. And that's why you have to read your word.